100 longevity lifestyle designers. This is Zach here with secretsoflongevity.com, and this is a video response to one of Paul Nison's most recent videos, specifically the one titled "What's Wrong with Paul?" And if it's not approved as a video response, I'll just put links below so you can watch that video if you're interested. And if this video goes over 10 minutes and becomes a two-part series, I'll also do this as a response to Paul's second video he posted earlier today, that was sort of a response to the amount of feedback he got from the comments on his previous video. And that second video, I believe, is called "Is Hugging and Touching," or "Is Hug and Touch Healthy?" Might not have that exactly correct, but I'll post a link below, or this is a video response to that. So my stance is definitely that, Paul, I respect your ideas completely, your beliefs. That's your choice to engage in what it is you need to engage in. And by all means, no one can question that. And I personally have beliefs that I hold and that are part of my practice and that other people might think are strange. But where we differ is I recognize those as my beliefs that aren't founded in what can be proven, and what you're doing is stating these as facts and without really providing any evidence except for the fact that you're using the Bible. Now, the three things I'd like to touch on are the idea that bearing skin is not good for your health in terms of from a spiritual standpoint. Another one I want to cover is touch between strangers, between friends, between men and women, whether or not they're in a relationship or not. And then also sexual repression. This isn't something you talk about, but it's something I'm going to get into. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and I encourage people to check out your videos to get exactly what it is you're saying you're practicing and recommending, but this is the idea that you only touch your wife, and of course your child or future children, and you aren't hugging anyone, whether they're male or female, especially when you're out doing your lectures, etc. And your reasons behind this, you have some valid reasons that make sense, such as not wanting to transmit germs and it's protecting your health, and that makes complete sense. It limits the amount of pathogens being passed on, but there is one very simple solution to this, and this is to carry a natural hand sanitizer with you. I personally use a essential oil-based one that doesn't have any alcohol in it. You know, if you're in a situation where you need to have friendly contact, like shaking hands or giving a hug, and you're suspect of the person's personal hygiene, you can just throw some of that on afterwards. I do this, you go out anywhere in public and you're touching a wall, you're touching a railing. I personally avoid touching railings as much as possible, but you might be someone who needs to use a railing. Anywhere you go, you're going to be touching things because our hands are tools that we use to explore our environment. So yes, I often put hand sanitizer on after a day of being out and about. So that issue aside, because that can be easily remedied, your main reason for not wanting to touch other people is, specifically women, is the idea that it is in some way violating your sacred contract or marital vow to your wife. And again, if this is your personal belief, I wholeheartedly think you should embrace that. But what I'm focusing on here isn't your practice of that. It's that you're stating that this is what's best for health. And you bring in the argument of divorce rates, etc., and that divorce rate is not as high in the Jewish religion, and that might be true. I haven't looked at any statistics. You haven't shown us any statistics. However, I do know that in the U.S., divorce rates are skyrocketing, yet they're not in certain other parts of the world, and there's a mix of religions there's a mix of religions everywhere. It's very difficult to make blanket statements such as everyone in one group has better marriage rates than others, and there's many different reasons that a divorce can come about. And whether there's an exchange that takes place energetically between people on contact, I wholeheartedly agree that there can be strange things that go on when you come into contact with another person. I personally feel that that's a product of being human in this world and interacting with people. And when I shake someone's hand or give someone a hug and it doesn't feel right, I go home and I release that in some way through meditation or exercise, or I have certain qualities built in with myself that it naturally sheds off because I have develop that part of myself that doesn't get attached to, you know, someone coming at me with lust, for instance. If I feel someone coming at me with lust, I'll usually avoid that situation, but if it happens to create a situation that isn't ideal, it's dealt with in an appropriate way. And again, one way to deal with it is to say, I'm not going to touch anyone, because there's that one person in 100 that might bring something weird to you. However, there's also the aspect that as men, we are triggered visually as well as through kinesthetic touch. There's sexual transmission that occurs, energy transmission if you want to call it that. There's feelings that take place regardless of whether you're touching someone or not. So in some religions they take it to the point where everyone's wives are covered with cloths, and perhaps in some cases you see their faces, sometimes their faces are covered. That's the extreme place you can take it, where if you're not touching a woman, the next step is to cover them so that your woman isn't made impure by another man, and likewise other women won't be making other men impure and causing impure thoughts, etc. Now, again, I have no issue with people engaging in that and doing that in their own way, in their own space and time. However, when they start to expound it to others, state it as the way or the truth and optimal for health, that becomes dogma, and that is incorrect, and people are going to speak up about it. Now, my personal thoughts and feelings around being in a monogamous relationship or being in a relationship where you're devoted to your partner, whether it's a marriage or you're not married, the way to deal with these things that come up in terms of interactions with people of the opposite gender or people of the same gender, if you're in a same gender relationship, is to first of all establish the clear boundaries you have with your partner, and second of all to recognize that there is biology that takes place in people, and this can be a mechanism of the unconscious mind, or the reptilian brain you could call it, or even the mammalian brain has sort of a pattern of the way it works. Yet religion has time and again come in to try and alter that, which is in some ways unnatural, and I could liken that to the way allopathic medicine tries to treat a surface issue or disease, which is a problem on someone, by treating the symptom, by eliminating the symptom without addressing the root cause. Now, if we were to consider, adultery, for instance, people having sex outside the marriage, which is obviously a problem, it causes hurt on both sides, it destroys marriages. So the solution isn't going to be that allopathic type of mentality of addressing the symptom, which would be saying, I'm not going to touch or look at anyone else, or I'm going to put blankets or robes or scarves over the one gender so that there's just no contact between them, and then when I'm in my own space I'm going to just be with my wife and take off that covering, so to speak. And that's addressing the surface without addressing the deeper psychological things that are going on that can be traced to these more primitive aspects of ourselves that is driven by biology and reactions, and doesn't have what we could call higher thinking, which is the primate brain or the frontal lobes. It reacts in a way that is for its best interest. So, for instance, in a male, we're going to use a specific experiment where they took a male mouse, put it in a cage, and put another female mouse in there, and they copulated and procreated, and the mouse was pregnant, and then the male mouse took 40 minutes to recover, and then when they did the same experiment and replaced that female mouse with another female mouse immediately afterwards, the male was able to procreate right away without any 40-minute recovery. And it could happen again and again until the mouse was literally drained of all its reserves. Now, that's just an example of one aspect of the male biology, but that doesn't mean that in human society we're all acting like that. And it can go in the other direction too. The female mouse, or basically any species in nature, the female is able to copulate many times over, and literally there are sperm wars that occur where sperm are all fighting to get to the egg, and the strongest sperm wins, which is representative of the strongest male, and that's how the strongest genes are passed forward. Now in our society we've created the specific roles where people choose to be monogamous, but what we can decide with our human biology is recognize we have that aspect within ourselves, and if we choose to be in a one-on-one relationship with someone and we still feel those feelings of natural human biology, of interactions happening outside the relationship, and it's going to happen no matter if you don't touch people or not, but what occurs is there's feelings of attraction, but what you do with that attraction is the psychology behind it. You can repress it in the form of pushing it away, or you can acknowledge it as a natural reaction and you let that feeling circulate in your body.